Oh, good. 5 of us, the same car for 7 hours. That's going to be fun. Next time on Landman.
You don't even know what game you're playing, do you?
Let's not forget who we're burying, all right?
Snakes are cannibals. Did you know that? My business is similar, but we have a code. We only eat other snakes.
Are you calling Tommy a snake?
One bad decision can turn a fixer into a target. In Landman, Season 2, Episode 6, that moment has arrived. The quiet chess match between Tommy Norris and Galino is over. No more favors, no more polite threats over expensive whiskey. This is the episode where survival replaces strategy, where family becomes leverage, and where the oil patch finally decides who gets buried. Episode 6 doesn't just escalate the conflict, it exposes the tragic truth about Tommy Norris and sets in motion the one move that could destroy Galino's entire empire, or shatter the Norris family forever. By the time we reach Season 2, Episode 6, it becomes painfully clear that Tommy Norris was never meant to win this game, only to endure it. For years, Tommy has survived by being useful. Useful to Monty, useful to M-Tech, useful to billionaires who don't want blood on their hands, and cartel men who don't want attention on theirs. He's the man you call when the rig blows, when the permits vanish, when the wrong bodies end up in the wrong places. But Episode 6 reframes everything we thought we knew about him. Tommy isn't powerful because he wants control. He's powerful because he's willing to absorb pain that others refuse to carry. That's the tragic truth at the center of his character. Tommy grew up learning that love was conditional, that stability was temporary, and that survival meant staying one step ahead of disaster. His childhood wasn't about dreams, it was about damage control. A violent, broken father, a chaotic home ruled by addiction and silence. The oil field didn't harden Tommy. It felt familiar to him. Dangerous, unforgiving, demanding everything and giving nothing back. That's why he thrives there. And that's also why he keeps losing pieces of himself every season. In Episode 6, we see the cost of that survival strategy come due. Tommy is no longer just managing rigs and executives, he's managing consequences. His son Cooper's land deal, which once looked like a blessing, now smells like a trap. The paperwork is wrong. The money moves too clean. The partners are invisible. Tommy knows this pattern because he's seen it before. This is how cartels wash blood into profit. And the terrifying part? Galino didn't force Cooper into this. He let it happen. That's the real power move. Galino understands that Tommy will destroy himself trying to protect his family, and Episode 6 positions that instinct as both Tommy's greatest strength and his fatal weakness. What makes this episode hit harder is that Tommy finally realizes he can't outrun his past anymore. His debts aren't just financial, they're emotional. Every compromise he's made, every time he chose the job over his children, every time he told himself just one more fire to put out, has led him here, alone at the center of a storm he helped create. The oil patch rewards men who break quietly, and Tommy has been breaking for years. Episode 6 doesn't show Tommy as a hero rising. It shows him as a man cornered. The fixer is now the problem that needs fixing. Galino sees this clearly. That's why the conflict truly begins here. Not with gunfire, not with threats, but with pressure. Relentless, invisible pressure designed to make Tommy choose between his integrity and his bloodline. And this is where the real question of Episode 6 emerges. Is Tommy Norris finally outmatched? Or has Galino misunderstood the most dangerous thing about him? Because Tommy doesn't fight to win. He fights to make sure the people he loves survive, even if it costs him everything. And when a man like that stops caring about the outcome, he becomes unpredictable. That's when empires fall. If Tommy Norris represents survival through suffering, Galino represents power through patience. Season 2, Episode 6 makes it clear that Galino has never been interested in chaos. He doesn't need explosions, shootouts, or public threats. His violence is quieter, cleaner, and far more terrifying. Galino's strength isn't what he takes by force. It's what people hand over to him because they believe they have no other choice. By Episode 6, the mask is fully off. Galino is no longer pretending to be a helpful financier or a friendly problem solver. His move against Tommy isn't sudden, it's surgical. He targets the one place where Tommy is weakest and most predictable, his family. Cooper's oil deal is the opening strike, and it's brilliant in its cruelty. There's no gun to Cooper's head, no cartel branding, just clean money, fast access, and legal-looking contracts. That's how Galino operates. He doesn't drag people into darkness. He convinces them they're stepping into opportunity. This is where the Galino versus Tommy war truly begins. Not as a personal feud, but as a philosophical clash. Galino believes everyone has a price. Tommy believes some lines still matter. Episode 6 exists to test which belief survives the oil patch. Galino's confidence comes from experience. He's watched men like Tommy before, men who think they can manage the devil without becoming him. And every time, the ending is the same. The devil waits. The devil collects. What makes Galino dangerous is that he respects Tommy. That respect keeps Tommy alive, but it also tightens the noose. Galino doesn't want Tommy gone. He wants him useful, controlled, complicit. He sees Tommy as the perfect frontman, an honorable face to legitimize dirty money, a battered soldier who understands how the system works and won't ask unnecessary questions. Episode 6 pushes this idea further by isolating Tommy from his usual support. The board doesn't trust him. MTech is bleeding money. Cammy's decisions are increasingly questionable, and every path forward seems to lead back to Galino's table. The brilliance of Galino's strategy is that it forces Tommy to make impossible choices. If Tommy pulls Cooper out, the deal collapses and dangerous people lose money. If he lets it continue, his son becomes part of something that can never be undone. There is no clean exit. That's the trap. Galino doesn't threaten Tommy's life. He threatens his future. He threatens the one thing Tommy has been trying and failing to protect since episode 1, the chance that his children won't inherit his scars. Episode 6 also hints that Galino may not be acting alone. His reach feels broader, more insulated. He's not just a cartel boss dabbling in oil. He's part of a system that feeds on industries like this. Energy, land, desperation. The oil patch is perfect cover. And Galino knows that as long as the money keeps flowing and the paperwork stays clean, no one powerful will look too closely. Especially not when the man managing the mess is someone as reliable as Tommy Norris. But here's where Galino may have miscalculated. He assumes Tommy will play defense forever. He assumes guilt will keep him obedient. Episode 6 plants the first real doubt in that assumption, because Tommy is starting to realize something crucial. Compliance hasn't protected his family. It's only delayed the damage. And once that realization sets in, the rules of the game change. Galino believes he's already won because Tommy hasn't struck back. But Galino doesn't understand that Tommy's silence isn't surrender. It's calculation. The same instincts that kept rigs running through disasters are now turning inward, searching for leverage, waiting for the right moment. Episode 6 isn't about the explosion. It's about the spark. And the fire that follows won't stay contained. The war has begun. Not with violence, but with choice. And Galino has just forced Tommy Norris into making one that could end them both. Season 2, Episode 6 quietly points towards something far more dangerous than a rig attack or a cartel threat. It hints at a single, calculated move that could bring Galino's entire operation down, not through force, but through exposure. And the irony is brutal. The very system Galino hides behind may be the thing that kills him. Galino survives because he stays invisible. His money looks clean, his partnerships look legal. His presence in the oil patch blends in with dozens of other wealthy men who profit from land, leases, and leverage. He doesn't move drugs through trucks. He moves influence through contracts. That's why guns won't stop him. And that's why Tommy's usual methods won't work anymore. Episode 6 forces Tommy to think beyond fixing problems and start creating consequences. The key lies in how Galino launders power, not cash. Oil deals require permits, inspections, environmental compliance, and financial disclosures. Every rig touches government agencies, banks, insurance firms, and corporate boards. This is where the one-move theory takes shape. Tommy doesn't need to attack Galino directly. He needs to make Galino visible. That means forcing regulators, investors, and rivals to look closer than they want to. It means triggering audits that don't stop at surface numbers. It means exposing conflicts that turn clean capital toxic overnight. The oil patch is ruthless, but it's also cowardly. The moment Galino becomes bad for business, he becomes expendable. Episode 6 also hints that Tommy can't do this alone. He's been a lone wolf for too long, and that's nearly killed him. The episode subtly shifts the narrative towards shared resistance. His father, TL, may finally serve a purpose beyond regret. Decades in the field taught him how corners get cut and which shortcuts leave tracks. Cooper and Ainsley represent a generation that understands digital trails better than physical ones. And even Angela, chaotic as she is, understands people. How secrets spread, how reputations crack. The brilliance of this potential move is that it doesn't require Tommy to become someone he hates. He doesn't need to kill. He doesn't need to threaten. He just needs to stop protecting the system that's protecting Galino. That's the real betrayal Galino never sees coming, because he assumes Tommy's honor will keep him quiet. Episode 6 flips that assumption on its head. Honor doesn't mean silence anymore. It means accountability. But this move comes at a terrifying cost. Once Tommy pulls that thread, there's no going back. The oil world doesn't forgive whistleblowers. Cartels don't forgive exposure. And families caught in the middle pay first. Episode 6 makes it painfully clear that if Tommy chooses this path, he's not choosing safety. He's choosing truth. And truth in this world is lethal. This is why the episode feels so heavy. The question isn't whether Tommy can destroy Galino, it's whether he's willing to destroy the illusion that kept his family safe. The Fixer has always believed he could manage the fallout. Episode 6 suggests that the fallout is no longer manageable. It's inevitable. And that brings us to the real tension at the heart of this episode. Galino thinks he's tightening control. Tommy is quietly loosening it. One audit, one document, one conversation in the wrong room. That's all it takes to collapse an empire built on silence. The war isn't coming. It's already underway. And Episode 6 positions Tommy Norris not as a man seeking revenge, but as a man finally willing to stop absorbing the damage for everyone else. By Season 2, Episode 6, it's no longer possible to separate Tommy Norris's war with Galino from his war with himself. The oil patch has always been dangerous, but this episode makes one thing painfully clear. The real damage isn't happening on rigs or in boardrooms. It's happening inside the Norris family. And Galino knows it. Tommy's greatest vulnerability has never been money or power. It's love. Specifically, the fear that his children will inherit the same broken life he did. Episode 6 pushes this fear to the surface. Cooper's deal isn't just a bad business move, it's a mirror. Cooper is doing exactly what Tommy once did, chasing stability through risk, trusting systems that promise quick success, and believing he can handle consequences he doesn't fully understand. Tommy sees himself in his son, and that realization terrifies him. This is where Galino's manipulation becomes almost surgical. He doesn't threaten Cooper, he empowers him. He lets him feel like a man who made his own deal, secured his own future, and stepped out of his father's shadow. That's the trap. Because the fastest way to control a father is to convince his child that independence equals safety. Episode 6 shows Tommy struggling with this truth. If he intervenes, he becomes the villain in his son's story. If he doesn't, he becomes an accomplice to something far darker. Ainsley's role also grows heavier here. She's been watching the cracks widen all season, and Episode 6 positions her as the emotional barometer of the family. She sees what Tommy refuses to say out loud, that silence is tearing them apart. The more Tommy shields his family from reality, the more alone they become inside it. This episode suggests that the next generation may not be willing to accept protection that feels like abandonment. Then there's Angela. Chaotic, unpredictable, and often dismissed. But Episode 6 subtly reframes her presence. Angela understands dysfunction because she lives inside it. She recognizes patterns of manipulation the way some people recognize weather. Her volatility isn't weakness, it's radar. Galino may see her as noise, but that's exactly why she's dangerous. She's not afraid of confrontation. She's not afraid of burning bridges. And in a war built on secrecy, that kind of recklessness can become a weapon. TL's presence at the ranch completes the circle. The man who taught Tommy how to survive without tenderness is now forced to watch his son repeat the same mistakes. Episode 6 hints at something rare in Sheridan's world. accountability across generations. TL sees what his silence created. Tommy sees what his is creating now. And between them is a chance, fragile and uncomfortable, to break the cycle instead of passing it down. This is why episode 6 feels so suffocating. Every choice Tommy makes to fight Galino pulls him further from the people he's trying to protect. The family becomes both shield and hostage. And Galino's greatest advantage isn't money or muscle. It's time. He's patient enough to let the Norris family fracture under pressure while he waits in the shadows. But here's the shift. Episode 6 doesn't just show the family as a weakness. It hints that they may become Tommy's only real leverage. Galino underestimates family bonds because his world runs on fear and profit. He doesn't understand loyalty born from shared damage. And that blind spot may cost him everything. The oil patch destroys men by isolating them. Episode 6 challenges Tommy to do the opposite, to stop carrying everything alone, to let the people he loves see the danger clearly, even if it scares them. Because secrecy is what Galino feeds on, and transparency, painful as it is, may be the only thing strong enough to break his grip. This war isn't about oil, it's about inheritance, what gets passed down, what finally ends, and whether Tommy Norris can choose a future that doesn't look like his past. Season 2, Episode 6 doesn't give us explosions or clean victories. Instead, it delivers something far more unsettling: inevitability. By the time the episode reaches its final moments, it's clear that the conflict between Galino and Tommy Norris is no longer about winning. It's about what each man is willing to lose. And that's where the true endgame begins. Tommy stands at a crossroads that every fixer eventually faces. He can keep playing the role he was built for, absorbing damage, hiding truths, and sacrificing himself so others can sleep at night. Or he can step out of the shadows and let the system see what it's been profiting from all along. Episode 6 frames this choice as a kind of spiritual reckoning. The title isn't accidental. This is Tommy's dark night, the moment where survival stops being enough. Galino, on the other hand, remains calm. Too calm. He believes the board, the banks, and the industry will protect him, because they always have. He understands one brutal truth about power. Institutions don't care where money comes from, only that it keeps coming. But Episode 6 plants doubt in that certainty, because when risk becomes visible, loyalty evaporates. The same executives who smiled across the table will be the first to cut ties if it saves their own positions. The tragedy is that even if Tommy succeeds, there is no clean victory waiting for him. Exposing Galino doesn't restore what's been lost. It doesn't erase the years he missed with his kids, or the damage already done. Episode 6 makes peace with that reality. Some wars don't offer redemption, only clarity, and clarity can be devastating. What lingers after this episode isn't fear, it's tension, a sense that something irreversible has been set in motion. The oil patch doesn't forgive men who disrupt the flow. Cartels don't forgive exposure, and families don't emerge untouched from secrets this heavy. Tommy knows all of this. And yet, for the first time, he seems ready to stop running from it. The final question Episode 6 leaves hanging isn't whether Galino will fall, it's whether the world that allowed him to rise will survive the fallout. Because Galino isn't an anomaly. He's a symptom, a product of an industry that rewards silence and punishes truth. If Tommy pulls the trigger on this move, he's not just challenging one man, he's challenging the entire machine. And that's what makes this conflict so powerful. Galino thinks he's fighting a fixer. Tommy realizes he's fighting a system, one that broke his father, one that nearly broke him, one that's now reaching for his children. Episode 6 suggests that the only real victory left is refusing to let that cycle continue. What do you think? Is Tommy finally ready to destroy Galino, or will the oil patch destroy him first? Drop your thoughts below. If this breakdown hit hard, hit that like button, subscribe for more Landman deep dives, and stay locked in, because the fallout is just getting started.